So I'm here with the CEO of 1047 Games, the developers behind Splitgate 2. Ian, thank you so much for getting the time to talk with me about your new game, Splitgate 2. It's been on Gamescom for the past couple of days. I mean, we've been going for a couple of days at the moment that we're recording this. So yeah, how has it been? How has the reception been?
It's been awesome. I mean, I don't know if you guys... Oh, yeah, you did get to see it.
Yeah, I got to see the stand. It was like this big...
You probably came early, but I mean, it was crazy. Like all day yesterday, just packed, long lines, playing the games, playing Splitgate 2, but also we've got a really fun booth with different stations. I don't know if you got to do any of the...
yeah, I know the agility test, which is like the thing you also see in some arcades where you have to hit the buttons really quick, and it's a good training for a shooter like this.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's why we did it. No, but it's fun. We wanted to have something for everyone. Obviously, like being in Germany and at Gamescom, like you can't show violent games if you're below 16. And so we thought, well, we'll have our violent game in the back, in the big stage, and then for the younger crowd, they can still enjoy the booth. So,
yeah, because Splitgate 2 isn't that violent, actually. I mean, they're shooting. But yeah, there's like really weird rules about that.
16 plus, you can't really escape it if you're a first-person shooter.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me a little bit about Splitgate 2, because there's obviously a Splitgate 1, which was also a multiplayer shooter. So why a second one?
Well, so I don't know if you know the backstory, but Splitgate 1 actually started off as a school project that I started in my dorm room at Stanford. We actually named the company 1047 Games after our dorm room, 1047. And Splitgate was awesome. Love it. Very proud of it. But, this was an indie game built by a very small team. And we had a lot of success with it. We obviously weren't able to maintain that success long term, which it's very difficult to do when you're 15 people. But we learned a ton. Grew the studio a ton. Obviously, you got some more funding. And so with the second time around, we got 175 people on the team now, including a lot of heavy hitters, industry veterans who have worked on Halo, Call of Duty, God of War, all sorts of great games. And so this time around, we said, okay, let's go bigger and let's hit that AAA quality bar and let's address all the weaknesses while also maintaining the strengths of Splitgate 1.
So what would be the weaknesses that you've improved in this game?
So I'd say a couple things come to mind right off the bat. I think the first thing you'll notice without even getting into the details of the game is just the overall quality. Like when you play Splitgate 2, you're playing a AAA shooter. You can see the graphics are awesome. There's a very cohesive art style. The audio, the VFX, the animations, everything about it just looks and feels like a AAA shooter. So I think that's the first thing you'll notice. The other big thing is one of our weaknesses, or rather goals that we wanted to improve, was we wanted to have meaningful variety with a purpose. And so with Splitgate 1, it was purely guns and portals, and that was it. Everybody was always the same. There was no meta. There was no change of playstyle. It was kind of just the same thing every time, which is super fun. But we'd see players would come in, play for about 3 or 4 weeks, have a great time, and then they'd run out of things to do and just sort of burn out on that same thing every single time. And so this time around, a couple things we've done, but one is we've added factions, so it's a class-based shooter now. There's 3 classes. Each class has, caters to a slightly different playstyle, has all sorts of different weapons, different attachments, different perks. So there's sort of a create a class within that faction, which allows a lot more variety, different playstyles, etc. But also do want to emphasize, this is still a game about guns and portals. Like that's kind of our bread and butter. So, I'd say this is much more of a Valorant than an Overwatch. We wanted players to still be the focus 80–90% of the time is who's got the better aim, who's got the better portaling, and then that 10% extra icing on the cake is what gun are you using, what attachment are you using. But regardless of class, everybody's the same health, everyone's the same DPS, everybody's the same movement. So it's really those equipments and abilities that give that extra edge.
Yeah, because when I played it at the booth as well, which is a pretty cool experience, like you get to walk into this like big booth. There's like, of course, there's stations there. So it's kind of like being an e-sporter almost, like being finally, I'm here. But what I noticed is that the feedback is just really tight, you know, like the way you shoot people, and you know, you get that just that right amount of feedback when you kill someone, like with the sound effects and stuff. How do you balance something like that? Because I think that's kind of like the magic touch of a first-person shooter that you need to get right in order to make it fun to play, which is pretty weird because, you know, it's a thing you almost, I have difficulty describing it, as you can tell.
It's funny, right? Because you'd think, like, why would that matter, right? Why would, like, shooting somebody, getting a little UI hit marker with the little audio, why would that matter, right? But it matters a ton. And I think the answer is just tons of iteration and testing and trying and showing it to our company and some external playtesters as well. And I think we went through like 23 iterations of different types of hit marker sounds and ended up with something I really, really think fans are going to love. And as you noted already, like the gunplay just feels super, super crisp and satisfying. And a big part of that is just that hit marker sound and that hit marker UI, which also went through a number of iterations. Not 23, but probably like 4. But those are the little details that really make a game have good gunplay versus mediocre gunplay.
So how has it been to go from an indie dev team to something huge like this? Because that's quite a transition, especially for you.
I mean, it definitely has its challenges, right? There's just more going on. You know, you kind of have to learn to delegate more. I can't do everything. I can't be the only one making decisions. I mean, not that I was for Splitgate 1 by any means, but it's just a larger scale. There's so many moving parts, so many different aspects of the game being worked on in tandem. What I will say that I'm very proud of is we've really preserved the culture of 1047. Like, we're still very scrappy. We're still very much a startup. You know, we haven't allowed any of the red tape, big company mentality to get in the way of anything. So we're very much a startup still, and it feels just like the same team that we started with. And that's a credit to kind of the core team that built Splitgate 1. You know, those 15 or 20 people that we have since added a lot of additional pieces to. But they've been a very good influence on everyone we've hired.
And how has it been to create a game with a much larger scale? Because, you know, not just with the devs that are working on it, but now that you are going for a sequel, I mean, a lot of possibilities probably open up, and there had to be ideas that you have to be like, wait, stop, let's hold it there and maybe keep it at the core of this. Was that any trouble to you, or did you just go all out?
We went all out. I mean, obviously you have your challenges, like, you know, trying to maintain the scrappiness and leanness, but also like having some structure, right? It's a balance. We've only shared a very small fraction of what we've got coming, is what I'll say. We were working on a lot of things at the same time, and you know, we've only showed 2 modes and 3 maps and a handful of the guns. There's a lot more coming, but we're able to move a lot faster having this many people. So
yeah. And so how are you going to make this game running long term? Like, what are the plans for that, aside from hopefully like new content? But are you going to do like a battle pass, or is it going to be cosmetics, or what are you looking at there?
So we're not really talking about our live ops plan yet. What I will say is I think it's one of the biggest improvements from Splitgate 1 to Splitgate 2 is just how much attention we've put into this. We really have an awesome live ops plan with a ton of content coming. I think that's super important for any free-to-play game, any live service game in this day and age. But not really talking about live ops or cosmetics or anything. Obviously, well, hopefully obviously, but we are going to be free-to-play. We are going to be only cosmetics. There's no pay to win, but that's really all we're saying about it at this time.
And how would you say that the current live service or live games landscape is right now in gaming? Because there's a lot of options, and you see certain games kind of fall off. You see certain games kind of, you know, kind of fail before they even got the chance. You know, the Concord barely got a chance from a community before. I mean, it still has to launch at the moment that we're... Oh no, it has launched today actually. But you know, the beta numbers weren't good. So how are you dealing with that, and how are you keeping it fresh, and do you look opportunistic towards Splitgate 2 on that front?
I'm actually very optimistic. I mean, I think a lot of people look at the landscape and they say like, man, there's so much competition out there. What I see is there's a very small handful of extremely popular games. And I love these games like Apex, Call of Duty, Fortnite, Valorant. I play all of them regularly. I study them, but I also enjoy them. But what I've seen with recent launches, and maybe Concord's not a good example, we'll see how it does, but you know, recent free-to-play launches, gamers are desperate for something new, and every time something new comes along, they all flock towards it. It's the hot game. I mean, we had this with Splitgate. We were the hot game. I think what most of these games where they have fallen short is they don't have that second half figured out, which is the live ops and the content. We have the advantage of, we've felt the personal pain of like already going through this once, of having an awesome, fun game have its moment and not having the live ops content plan in place, which we couldn't do. We were a very small team, 15 people. There's no way we could have done it even if we tried. We've gone through that. So there's a lot of learnings we've had over the last few years that I don't think some of these other devs have had yet. And I mean, live service is evolving very quickly. It's a very different ball game than it was 5-10 years ago. So anyway, I think it's a big advantage we have, and I'm very optimistic because I think we're gonna have our moment again, just like most really good shooters, and but we're gonna execute on the second half of live ops. So.
And what's the one thing about Splitgate 2? If you really had to name one specific thing that you would say, well, this is Splitgate 2, what would that be?
I think it's hard to answer in one question. I mean, I think like we've shown some gameplay so far. I think it's a pretty good indicator of what we're building. There's a lot more, but you know, the coolest thing about Splitgate is you get to experience just epic plays, something you can't really do in any other shooter with the portals. Portals are still the unique selling point, but we've built on top of that. So I'd say, you know, with Splitgate 2, play the game. You'll see we've got a lot coming. We've got an awesome experience that allows for just really memorable outsmarting and outplaying, and yeah, I think fans are going to really enjoy it.
Because you were talking about loadouts. I mean, I played the game already, but every player has the portal ability. Like there's not a loadout where the portal ability is gone. That is in the game, whether you're a sniper or an assault, or you have the shield, or you have the rush. That's all in there.
Absolutely, yeah. It's still, like I said earlier, like it's still all about guns and portals and movement. Like that is the bread and butter. That's the core. I think that's what you need for any shooter. You got to get the gunplay, the movement, and then hopefully you've got something else beyond that. But I have always looked at abilities and equipments as sort of the icing on the cake.
And when can we play this at home? Because we can play it at Gamescom right now, but when do players all over the world get the opportunity to get their hands on Splitgate 2?
2025.
Somewhere.
No.
Somewhere in 2025. Well, you know, you need the time, and of course you're gathering feedback and all that kind of stuff, which is probably also like a big process in a game like this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so, well, thank you very much for speaking with me, and look forward to Splitgate 2. It is coming. Is it only coming to PC for now, or are there also consoles?
For the closed alpha, it's Steam only, but we are coming to PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, Steam, and Epic Games.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you.